When my friends come over to my place, they're often scared. And no, it's not because of the hordes of crazy children running around or the baby food smeared all over the walls. Oftentimes, it's because by the time they reach my driveway, they can already hear the most angelic melodies coming from my room. Of course, by that I mean Black Sabbath's one and only Ozzy Osbourne serenading us all with stories of recreational drug use and other things that are probably looked down upon by churches everywhere. So, what is heavy metal? According to modern-day philosopher and musicologist Robert Walser, heavy metal denotes a variety of social discourses, musical practices, and cultural meanings, all of which revolve around key concepts, images, and experiences of power. In other words, metal is meant to speak to its listeners through loud, energizing experiences, leaving them feeling empowered. The intensity created through staple elements such as insanely creative lyrics, loud percussion, and seemingly intoxicating guitar and bass lines has lasted generations through OG metal songs such as those produced by Black Sabbath. But let's continue to pick apart the history of metal through the long, lengthy history of the genre. Although metal is most reputable for its boom in the 80s, this genre of harder hard rock started as a small subculture in the 60s. With few fans, metal's audience was mostly young working-class white males in the United States and UK. Early metal was branded when William S. Burroughs released his novel Naked Lunch in 1962 and later referred to one of his characters as the Heavy Metal Kid. This may have inspired the lyric Heavy Metal Thunder in Steppenwolf's song Born to Be Wild 1968, which is considered to be the term's first use in a song. However, soon enough, the 70s would lead to a steep decline in metal's popularity despite the release of some of the most formidable metal albums known today, Black Sabbath's Paranoid, Led Zeppelin II, and Deep Purple in rock. But eventually the 80s would bring the now booming metal scene back to its height, and for the first time ever, metal culture would experience the radio play it deserved. But there was also a new, fresh diversity that came along with this boom, and there was now more gender balance, a wider age range, and metal was seen to be enjoyed by all social classes at the time. This new variety among the audience gave way for more variety within the genre itself, and new subcultures were beginning to pop up regularly, such as speed, glam, and thrash metal, which all featured wildly different aspects. For example, the punky essence in thrash metal completely contradicted clean-cut speed metal, and so on. Eventually, the music industry caught on, and Headbangers Ball, MTV's metal segment, was introduced, which featured new metal videos every week. With the rise in radio play and TV coverage, heavy metal made up 40% of all recordings sold in the United States by 1989. It was announced to be the new mainstream of rock and roll that same year by Rolling Stone. However, from the 90s to now, metal has remained a less popular music choice, and this is mainly attributed to the rise of pop and rap music. But metal continues to slowly become more popular as the years go on and will hopefully be what it once was again soon. Along with the bigger picture of metal history is a smaller subplot that includes the ways in which gender expression was especially important for some of its participants. In research conducted by John Frisk, it was concluded that gender norms were practically useless because of the constant pressure that came with a society so heavily influenced by gender. This, along with the largely teen male audience associated with metal, is the perfect storm for the longtime visual representation of metal and also manly music genre. But there were definitely individuals who sought out to challenge this notion, such as members of bands like Def Leppard or Van Halen, who presented themselves in flamboyant androgynous outfits and long hair, which was highly looked down upon at the time, in an effort to challenge what society had perceived as normal. There were also loads of bad-to-the-bone ladies such as Wendy O. Williams and Kim McCullough, who challenged the stereotype that women were delicate entities that shouldn't be allowed to play with chainsaws by any means, while absolutely tearing up the metal scene with literal chainsaws during certain performances, ultimately paving the way for women in the metal scene. Although gender expression wasn't totally accepted across the board, it became an option for those encased in metal culture and was found to be quite liberating after centuries of extremely strict gender roles. Furthermore, the risky subject matter within metal had led to a multiple decade-long war between the genre itself and those trying to censor it. Most notably, Tipper Gore, who was quite timid for someone with such a metal-sounding name, who used her influence on society as wife of ex-Senator Albert Gore Jr. to found the Parents Music Resource Center with the goal of eliminating the violent sexual message heavy metal could apparently be sending the youth of America. She enforced rules such as warning labels on all of the albums you see here, which she referred to as porn rock. But her messaging memoir, Raising PG Kids in an X-Rated Society's popularity only extended as far as concerned parents, and is now considered a joke to those who sat through the book's reign of terror and many, many family meetings about what Jesus would have wanted, which parents insisted was definitely not black nail polish on their sons and daughters. Censorship heavily affects metal because it is such a real and raw music genre that uses intense depictions to express strong emotions. And can these strong emotions and inner thoughts really be properly depicted if the artist's original vision isn't kept intact? No, and that is the beautiful thing about metal and other alternative subcultures. People are free to put their innermost thoughts and feelings on display in a way they truly love and feel is most accurate to themselves. All in all, we learned a lot of really cool things about Tipper Gore's least favorite music genre, how metal has survived and thrived over the years, and the cool ideals behind metal culture that make it the fun-loving community we know and love today. By now, you should have realized that the intimidating metal community really is just a bunch of depressed kids who crave validation through rebellion, and that we should all give a little bit of grace to those who present themselves differently than ourselves. So, maybe it was the baby food on the wall that scared my friends. Because by now you should have realized that metal really isn't as scary as you think. Unless you're at a Wendy O. Williams show and someone let her get a hold of a chainsaw, of course. Thank you.